The crystal clinking against my champagne flute was the only sound I seemed to hear in the roaring din of my living room. It was our 15th wedding anniversary party, and the house was filled with the warm, familiar buzz of friends and family. Laughter spilled from the kitchen, where caterers we'd used for a decade expertly navigated the chaos. In the corner, our children, Liam and Sophia, now 13 and 10, were showing off their dance moves to a group of indulgent aunts. The entire scene was a masterpiece, a tapestry I had woven over 15 years, thread by careful thread. I stood near the grand fireplace, a smile gracing my lips. This house, this life, was my magnum opus. I'm Elena, 38 years old. I was a promising interior designer once, with a fledgling business and a vision board bursting with potential. But when Mark's tech startup began to skyrocket, we made a decision. I would be the anchor. I would manage the home, raise the children, host the parties that were, in truth, subtle extensions of his professional networking. I poured my creativity into these walls, into our social calendar, into ensuring Mark's life was seamless. I never regretted it. I saw it as our partnership. Mark climbed onto the raised hearth, his boyish grin, the one that had charmed me at 22, beaming out at the crowd. He raised his glass. "Everyone, can I have your attention?" The room quieted, all faces turning towards my husband, the successful, charismatic Mark. My heart swelled with a familiar, wifely pride. "I just want to say thank you to every single one of you for being here tonight to celebrate," he began, his voice smooth and confident. 15 years with this amazing woman. He gestured to me, and a wave of affectionate applause washed over me. I dipped my head modestly. "But you know," he continued, his tone shifting to something more conspiratorial, "life is about growth. About embracing change and new opportunities. And Elena and I, we believe in having an open heart and an open home." A gentle murmur of agreement rippled through the room. I felt a prickle of confusion. This wasn't in the speech we'd loosely discussed. "That's why," Mark announced, his voice booming with false benevolence, "we've decided to welcome a very special person to come live with us indefinitely. She's been going through a tough time, and we have more than enough space to share our blessings." My smile tightened. Who was he talking about? An elderly relative? A friend in need? We hadn't discussed this. The crowd parted slightly, and a young woman stepped forward from near the hallway. She was in her mid-20s, willowy, with a cascade of blonde hair and a dress that was a little too cocktail party for a family gathering. It was Chloe. Mark's new, 26-year-old executive assistant, whom he'd introduced at the company picnic a few months back. My blood turned to ice. Mark stretched out his hand, and she took it, climbing up to stand beside him, a blush on her cheeks that wasn't from embarrassment, but from triumph. "Everyone," Mark declared, putting a possessive arm around her shoulders, "this is Chloe. She's more than my assistant, she's become a very dear part of my life. And now, she's going to be a part of our family. She's moving into the guesthouse tomorrow." The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the clatter of a fork hitting a plate. Dozens of eyes flicked from Mark's beaming face, to Chloe's simpering one, and finally, to mine. I could feel their collective horror, their pity, their shock. My best friend, Sarah, had her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. This wasn't an act of charity. This was a nuclear bomb, detonated in the heart of my home, at my anniversary party. He was moving his mistress into our backyard. The humiliation was so profound, so savage, it was almost artistic. Mark looked at me, his eyes challenging, daring me to make a scene. To scream, to cry, to give him the excuse to paint me as the hysterical, unreasonable wife. But I did none of those things. The ice in my veins solidified into something else, pure, diamond-hard clarity. I let the smile that had frozen on my face soften into something genuine. I raised my champagne flute, my hand perfectly steady. I looked directly at Chloe, then at Mark, and I said, my voice clear and carrying through the stunned silence, "Welcome to the family, Chloe. We're so happy to have you." The look of confused shock on Mark's face was my first, small taste of victory. The war had just been declared, and he didn't even know he was already on the losing side. The party unraveled quickly after that. People made hasty, awkward excuses and fled. Sarah tried to stay, her eyes filled with tears, but I gently squeezed her hand and whispered, "Not now. I'm okay. I promise." The lie was necessary. I needed to be alone. And every shred of dignity I had left. I wouldn't just leave. I would reclaim what was mine, and I would make sure the house of cards he and Chloe were building collapsed on top of them. The symbolic gesture wasn't an envelope. It was a key. The day after she moved in, I had a new, state-of-the-art lock installed on the door to my home office, the room containing the safe with all the physical documents, the deeds, the passports. I smiled as the locksmith worked. The first move had been made. My power move was quiet, executed with the precision of a master strategist. I called a family meeting, me, Mark, and the children in our living room. Chloe was conspicuously, and pointedly, excluded, watching TV in the guesthouse. "Kids," I began, my voice warm and steady. "You know how Daddy's business is doing so well." They nodded, Liam looking wary, Sophia confused. "Well, Mommy's business is going to do well, too. I've decided to really focus on my interior design company. And our house is my flagship project. From now on, this isn't just our home. It's the main asset of Elena Designs. We're going to treat it that way." Mark scoffed. "What are you talking about, Elena? This is ridiculous." "It's not ridiculous, it's a business decision," I said sweetly. "And to that end, I've taken a few steps. I've formally transferred the title of the property into the name of my LLC. I've also restructured all the household accounts. The mortgage, the utilities, the property taxes, they're all now business expenses, managed by me." His face drained of color. "You can't do that. The mortgage is in my name." I corrected him gently. "I paid it off. This morning. With the liquid cash from our joint savings account, which, according to the bank records, you've been liberally using for your own extracurriculars. I simply used what was left to secure our home. Permanently." He stared at me, speechless. The joint account had over $2 million in it. He'd been dipping into it for Chloe, but he'd assumed the bulk of it was his safety net. I had just pulled that net out from under him. You paid off the mortgage," he whispered, horrified. "I secured my business's primary asset," I said, smiling at the children. "See? Mommy's a good businesswoman." I had effectively made him a guest in his own home, and he couldn't say a word without revealing his financial infidelity in front of the children. The power shift was absolute, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. The confrontation came a week later. He stormed into my office after the children were at school, slamming the door. Chloe was hovering somewhere in the house, no doubt listening. "What the hell is this, Elena?" he snarled, throwing a bank statement onto my desk. "My cards are being declined. My accounts are frozen." I looked up from my computer, where I was reviewing the final forensic audit of his shell company. "That's because I filed a report with the bank about suspicious activity. Large, unaccounted-for cash transfers to a private account. They're investigating you for potential embezzlement from your own company, Mark. It's standard procedure." His anger melted into sheer panic. "Embezzlement? I didn't, it was for Chloe." I finished for him. "Yes, I know. I have all the records. Over $350,000 in the last 6 months. Your investors won't be pleased to learn the CEO is siphoning funds for his mistress's lifestyle." He began to pace, his hands gripping his hair. "You'll ruin me. You'll ruin us. No, Mark. You did that. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Then came the manipulation. He dropped to his knees, his voice breaking. Elena, please. I'm sorry. I was a fool. It was a midlife crisis. She means nothing. I'll send her away today. We can fix this. We can go back to how we were. I looked at the man groveling on the floor of the office I built, in the house I owned, and I felt nothing. There is no going back. And we both know you wouldn't have sent her away if I hadn't forced your hand. The begging started, desperate and pathetic. Please, don't do this. Think of the children. My reputation. I'll give you anything. A bigger settlement. Just don't release that information. I leaned forward, my elbows on my desk, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. It's too late for that, Mark. The information is already with my lawyer. Along with the prenuptial agreement, which, thanks to your infidelity and financial misconduct, is now void. I'm not taking a settlement. I'm taking it all. The house is already mine. Your company shares will be divided. And your little girlfriend. I let a cold smile touch my lips. She's about to find out that the well is dry. He stared at me, his eyes wide with the dawning, horrifying realization that I had not been the passive victim. I had been the architect of his ruin all along. You planned this. From the moment you announced she was moving in. I confirmed. You brought her into my house to humiliate me. So I made sure she would lose everything, too. She thought she was moving into a life of luxury. Instead, she moved into the epicenter of a financial nuclear blast. Telling the children was the hardest part. We sat them down together, and I let Mark stumble through a sanitized version of the truth. Mommy and Daddy are having problems, we need to live apart. Liam, at 13, saw right through it. Is it because of Chloe? Is she why you're always fighting? Sophia started to cry. I don't like her. She tries to act like my friend, but she's not. My heart shattered and reformed, stronger. I held them both close. This is not your fault, I whispered, my voice fierce with a mother's love. None of this is your fault. Your father and I love you more than anything. We are still your parents, but we cannot live together anymore. Later that night, after they were settled, my father-in-law called. Mark had run to Daddy. The man who had drafted the prenup was livid. Elena, this is outrageous. You're destroying my son's life over a silly mistake. Infidelity and financial fraud aren't silly mistakes, Robert, I said calmly. And if you recall Section 4, Clause B of your own prenup, both are grounds for its dissolution. You designed it to protect your son from a gold digger. It never occurred to you he would become one. He sputtered, but he had no defense. The weapon he had crafted was now aimed directly at his own family. Mark tried one last justification during a mediated session. You drove me to it, Elena. You were so cold, so perfect. You never let me be the man. I looked at him, my eyes clear. I stayed silent while you built your empire on the foundation of my labor. I swallowed my dreams to amplify yours. I made a home for you that was your sanctuary. My silence wasn't coldness, Mark. It was strength. And you mistook it for weakness. I wasn't silent because I had nothing to say. I was silent because I was waiting for the right moment to speak. And now I have everything to say. The collapse was swift and total, and I watched it from the secure battlements of my home. My lawyer served Mark with the divorce papers, citing adultery and fraudulent dissipation of marital assets. The prenup was nullified. With the evidence I provided, he was forced to settle quickly or face a public, career-ending trial. He lost half of his company shares to me. His board of directors, horrified by the financial recklessness, voted him out as CEO. His reputation was ash. The tech community that had once revered him now saw him as a cautionary tale, a man who let his ego and his mistress destroy his own company. And Chloe? The moment his credit card stopped working and the eviction notice for the guesthouse was served, by me, with a polite smile, the love she supposedly felt evaporated. She had been attracted to the successful, powerful CEO, not the disgraced, unemployed man with a frozen bank account. I heard through the grapevine, Sarah made sure to tell me, that she packed her suitcases and left in an Uber, trying to sell the diamond bracelet online to make rent. She lost the man, the money, and the luxury she had coveted. She had, as I promised, lost everything too. I didn't just get a settlement. I got a rebirth. The house was entirely mine, free and clear. My interior design business, Elena Designs, exploded. The story of the wife who turned her home into an empire became a powerful, if unspoken, part of my brand. I was hired for major projects, my story resonating with a quiet power that clients found irresistible. I used the money from the sold company shares to set up college funds for Liam and Sophia and to invest in a portfolio that would secure our future. My children, after some difficult months of adjustment, began to thrive. They saw their mother not as a victim, but as a force of nature. They saw their father for what he was, a diminished man, living in a modest apartment, forever defined by his one, catastrophic miscalculation. The poetic justice was perfect. The prenup, designed to shield him, became the document that exposed his fraud. The mistress, brought in to humiliate me, became the catalyst for my liberation. The house he tried to share with her became the unassailable fortress of my independence. They say you shouldn't build your happiness on the ruins of someone else's life. But sometimes, when that someone tries to bury you under those very ruins, you have no choice but to build a castle from the rubble. And let me tell you, the view from the top is magnificent. If you enjoyed this story of turning betrayal into a new beginning, make sure to comment and subscribe for more tales of resilience and reinvention.